This is an update on Edna's Law. We're trying to find out what the issues and the culture is in the legal system that results often in the law being here and justice being there, and the gap in between being ever bigger, especially for whistleblowers. So yesterday we went along to a Law Commission consultation, allegedly, for experts and lawyers, not really for the public, but I think the people that suffer injustice should be consulted. So we went and gave our opinions. Misconduct in public office. It's a law that's rarely been used. It could be used for people like the CQC, who mislead the public with false information and don't conduct inspections the way they should do. It could be used against the high up people in the CQC when it hadn't occurred to anybody to hold anyone to account, high up. One of the things that was said was about 2 custody officers that hadn't filled records incorrectly, and I asked whether their employer had provided enough staff to allow them time to fill in records correctly before this prosecution. And it seems most of these prosecutions fails. Judges do not always fulfil their job, and in no other profession would people not be held to account. Now, I asked, and I knew the answer, when the last judge had, been prosecuted, and there's only ever one judge being prosecuted over a century ago for something to do with smuggling. What other profession could you say that about? Now, it seems to me that the whole thing is honed in on the people lower down the scale. It's been misused against journalists, is the other thing that I learned, in a country where a free press and free speech is supposed to be, something we take for granted. Well, I can assure you it is not. The one thing that angered me and concerned me more than anything was a barrister, Clare Montgomery QC, barrister, Matrix Chambers, the judge of tomorrow, in the very near future. This woman, her hostility to whistleblowers was overwhelming, both on and off the stage. She started off by ranting about Edward Snowden and how terrible he was, etc. I mean, it was absolutely appalling. And then the magic words, whistleblowers break the law. So people of integrity that do the right thing, this is how we're seen. This is how we're seen by the legal profession. We are criminals. Well, I'm going to be writing and making a complaint about Clare Montgomery, because if she is a judge, and she will be a judge, and she gets a whistleblowing case, her bias is of such a degree and her hatred of whistleblowers that it would render any judgment that she made in future on a whistleblowing case unsound. And I believe that judges and people in these positions need to be beyond reproach. And if they have got prejudicial or bigoted opinions that are not based on fact, then they should be barred from, sitting in judgment on these sort of cases. And Clare Montgomery should be ashamed of herself. I thought it was appalling, the way whistleblowers are not criminals, and we have to take so much injustice and unfair treatment. And if this is how the legal profession view us, then we know there's something very wrong. But to see it in front of you in that form, and to see it and the words come out of somebody's mouth that is the judge of tomorrow, I was just disgusted beyond words. I can see where Robert Francis QC, learnt his trade. It seems to me that the law and justice are 2 very different things, and I think the legal profession should hang their heads in shame. And that was my view of yesterday. The other thing that was overwhelming for me was the lack of basic common sense. Okay, I'm not a lawyer. Oh, thank God, because it seems you have to bypass your brain cells to be a lawyer. We were asked a scenario and we were asked to pass a judgment whether we thought this person was guilty or not guilty of misconduct. And the scenario was a civil servant leaks a document from a minister's desk because he doesn't like the minister. Was the document in the public interest? Oh no, they didn't mention that. Did he not like the minister because the minister had committed some crime and that's why he leaked the document? No, they didn't mention that. They just told us to say, is this man guilty or not guilty? If they want to know what's wrong with that law, I suggest they look at their own questions. One of the things that they asked at the end was, why does accountability matter? If you have to ask the question, you're never going to understand the answer. Accountability matters because everyone's life depends on accountability. If you do not take people and hold them to account, then there is no point in having a legal system at all. So Clare Montgomery QC, I shall be reporting you to all the relevant authorities, and I'd say to the Law Commission that you need to actually think about the people you put on your panels in future, and maybe you ought to have some whistleblowing barristers or some whistleblowing judges, if you could find any. I'm sure there must be some, maybe in New Zealand, because that's where the child abuse inquiry had to go to get a judge. And what does that say about the judges in England? Well, I rest my case.